Rogers' wireless internet, phone, and cable service was finally restored for many by late Saturday night, but plenty of questions remain about the service outage that affected millions of Canadians. Kevin Andrews is a technology teacher, podcaster, and blogger on the latest digital trends. He joins me now. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Jerry.
So can you put the full extent of the service outage into perspective for our listeners?
Yeah, this interruption was Rogers' second disruption really in the last 15 months, albeit, this one much more impacting. But this particular widespread disruption, which I think started early Friday morning, knocked out what they say about a quarter of Canada's observable internet connectivity. And so, we're talking millions of people were affected, essentially, paralyzing communications across a number of sectors, including healthcare, law enforcement, and the financial industry. Some 9/11 services couldn't receive incoming calls. Hospitals also reported impacts to their services, and even debit transactions were paused when Interact was sort of knocked offline. So, this disruption also made transport and flight bookings more difficult, especially now being the height of the summer travel season. And I think finally, small business owners were among the hardest hit by this outage, which sort of left them unable to process debit card payments. So, even hospitals had issues calling staff in. And I think, finally, on another note, though, too, the director of the Canadian Society of Palliative Care even tweeted saying that, it was unfortunate that some families were unable to call in to say goodbye to their loved ones before they passed away. So, as you can see, many people were affected in many ways.
And I mean, exactly what did they say when it comes to what caused the service outage?
Well, for Friday and a portion of Saturday, people were really only speculating. And, some surmised it could have been a cyber attack, while others tweeted it might have been a software update problem. In a TV interview on Friday, Rogers' senior vice president, Kyle Prigg, stated that they experienced a failure in their core part of their network. Essentially, the systems that carry voice and data across the country failed. But at the same time, he couldn't completely rule out a cyber attack either. And I think, on that same day, many memes flooded to social media poking fun at the problem. One guy tweeted that Starbucks now takes Rogers' spot as one of the biggest internet service providers in Canada. And he included a photo of lines of people standing outside of Starbucks desperate to sort of use their Wi-Fi. But I think by Sunday, Rogers issued a more definitive statement to the effect that, they believe they narrowed the cause to a network system failure following a maintenance update in their core network. And I think what happened is that caused sort of an overload, and as a result, their systems completely shut down.
And I noticed just anecdotally through Twitter, their help desk was making some updates. The first tweet, the second tweet, the third one. By the time they got around to making their third communication to customers, it was "Dear valued customers" at the head of the tweet.
That's right.
So,
exactly.
I mean, how do you think Rogers handled the situation?
Well, for Friday and especially a portion of Saturday, people were really left in the dark. I mean, concerts were canceled. Businesses were left without payment gateways. Emergency and transportation systems, were disrupted, and the financial institutions were certainly affected. I know for myself, I went to Walmart for groceries and realized when I got to the self-checkout that I could only use cash or credit card. Since their debit was down. Luckily, I had a credit card to pay for me as well, and so not knowing the exact cause and not having sort of no idea of how long the network will be down gave many people a very uneasy feeling. It was almost like you were back in the 70s and 80s when you could only use cash or credit card, right? So, on the flip side, though, I do know some people who were relieved no one could get a hold of them, almost sort of giving them an excuse for a day off. But, on the other side as well, there were others who rely on Rogers' services for life-saving means and were dangerously left in the dark. And so, I did see, it really did seem like sort of an eternity before Rogers acknowledged the issue. I do believe it was sometime later on Friday morning when they tweeted out their first notice. But really days later before most services were restored and we had a better idea of the cause. And so, one of the most, I think, recent communications from Rogers did say that, they were planning on proactively crediting customers' accounts for Friday's outage. But I think, by then, the damage was done.
We're speaking with Kevin Andrews, technology teacher, podcaster, and blogger on the latest digital trends. And Kevin, I mean, what does it say about the vulnerability, both as individuals and as a society, as a result of this?
So, this unprecedented communication outage affected millions of Canadians, impacting everything from transit and 9/11 services to banking and internet access, only goes to show how vulnerable and reliant we are on our technology. It truly highlights how fragile our communication infrastructure is to failure, and only goes to show that we need further safeguards to really put in place to ensure that we don't end up in the dark again. And so, the social media airways were burning up this weekend with talk about this outage and how it was sort of a learning opportunity for any threat actors, such as, Russian state-sponsored hackers, who could probably now see how vulnerable the Canadian industry is, our financial institutions and our healthcare systems are to an attack on a telecom provider. Rogers also is warning now, too, of customers to sort of be aware of a wave of scam text messages claiming to offer credits after the outage as well. And, I think finally the Canadian Industry Minister, Francois-Philippe Champagne, in a tweet called the situation unacceptable and said that he was in communication with the telecom CEOs to really find a solution.
What should we take away from this entire experience?
So, some experts are saying there needs to be more competition in this area, in the telecommunications area in Canada, because at the moment it's dominated by 3 large carriers, and their hold on the industry has long been a concern of academics who have called, for regulators to really increase competition for mobile and internet services. I know back in 2013, there was talk of Verizon Wireless in the U.S. extending their services here in Canada, but nothing really became of it. Add to that, too, the Canadian superstar actor Ryan Reynolds, who is the owner of Mint Mobile in the U.S., and he constantly gets asked why his service is not in Canada. And, he crafted a very funny and creative video on his website, mintmobile.ca, worth watching, alluding to the fact that all Canadians just need to call their government representatives and voice their opinion. Ultimately, though, this outage should really be a wake-up call for change of our telecommunications infrastructure. I think, it's time that regulators, and this includes Industry Canada and the CRTC, to really begin to insist on proper, robust, and independent audited internal controls of these telecommunication companies, so that you don't see an outage like this again.
Kevin Andrews, you're making some fine points, and I thank you so much for joining us here on your VOCM Mornings.
Thank you for having me.
Kevin Andrews, technology teacher, podcaster, and blogger with the latest digital trends.